Today on Crazy Carl Project, I'm going to show you some of the vacuum runs because I've had a lot of questions for this engine and four-wheel drive system.
And forgive us for our neighbors all at once deciding to mow when we're doing this.
It waited till late so it'd be quiet, and everybody started mowing at the exact same time we came out here with the camera. But break it down, this is the 99 Kia Sportage, and I've had different questions on vacuum. I'll start off with the four-wheel drive system, which I have a broken control. This is actually the four-wheel drive actuator switch. This is the four-wheel drive vacuum accumulator. So places you're going to get leaks a lot of times, you see these, this is the hard line here. The hard lines go down to the wheels and back behind the wheels where the four-wheel drive engages. So you'll have soft lines, they tend to be the main failure point, are these soft lines. The other point, I broke that off. The old, this had failed, got a new one. It got broken while I was fixing the master cylinder the fourth time. But you have these soft lines, this canister can start leaking. So if it won't engage, check the soft lines first. Check the steel line, make sure it hadn't rusted out. Good thing you can do is take a line, pull one of these soft lines off, and pull the line off where it goes into the hub. And you can take a little extension line, it's right back. You can see it right back here. See right there? Not the, right there is the soft line going to the brake. Right there's the hard line. You can pull this line off and put another piece of line on there and blow through it and see if it's clear. And that'll tell you if the line's clear. Then you can put a cap, like I've done there. See the plastic cap I put on that? That's for the brake line for the other side, from where this broke off. That goes over to the passenger side. You can put a cap like that on it and have someone hold it in, or just blow on it and see if it blows the cap off, and that'll tell you whether or not the steel line has a hole in it. You have another steel line here that goes back across, and it goes to the engine, which I'll show you over there here in a minute. But that's not one that would be prone to rust out, but this soft line can go bad. You have another vacuum line that goes to the master cylinder, so if you don't have power brakes, that is a likely culprit, is this line right here, because those soft lines can rot and go bad. You have, well, you have to mind the fact that my valve cover is leaking oil bad, but if you can see back, you might have to come from this angle. You can see right back here, there is part of the exhaust system, that soft line right there. And if you get a vacuum leak in there, that can cause it to run rough. You also have the idle control valve right there. If that gasket starts leaking, it can make it run rough. You have another air accumulator right there, and that, if it fails or breaks or something, that can cause the airflow to vary too and cause it to idle weird or run weird. You have, and then coming over to this side, you have a whole bunch more. Problems I had with running was this line right here. You see I've replaced. This is the carbon canister for the fuel system. If any of these lines start leaking, that can mess up fuel. It can give you a check engine or check fuel system warning. Pressure issues, make the pump do weird stuff. So you'll have to check, if you're having those, check these lines, see if they failed. You can see I had to replace this one and this one. This one is questionable, but it goes all the way back to the fuel tank. So
now, those fogger machines that's on Amazon are about $100, $150 and up, and then you got to get the mineral oil and everything else for that. Is there an easier way to do that stuff?
Yeah,
check for vacuums?
You can use anything that'll do smoke. If you smoke, you can use cigar, cigarette, whatever. If you don't smoke, you can actually do do like a bundle of sage like they do for the spiritual stuff, and that smoke will work. Maybe get rid of any demons or anything on there too. But other things you can do, trick I'll use is starter fluid. If you're looking for an intake leak, you can take a can of starter fluid and spray it around the hoses, and if the engine revs, that tells you there's a leak, because it pulls that starter fluid in and it gets extra fuel and it'll make the engine rev or stall, depending.
Which is a trick he's actually done on the Reatta, and that's how he found a couple of the
vacuum leaks. Yeah.
Yes.
But especially in the intake, but other places you'll have, common places where you'll have gasket leak that can cause issues are these lines, these feedback lines. They can start leaking. This one down here, I actually probably need to replace the one down there, but it goes back and down under there. There's and these are airflow. These have to do with the fuel system and air intake, and if any of these are leaking, it messes up the computer's controls. Another common spot for it to leak will be these gaskets on the my mind went blank on what to call this thing. The doohickey with the thingamabobs. the throttle. This is basically the throttle, the intake.
Yeah, throttle, air
but
intake.
Throttle and intake, these two gaskets can fail, and this is a good spot to test the starter fluid trick, because you spray it on here, and if it affects the engine, it tells you these gaskets are leaking. Another spot is right in here. This gasket can leak here, and it can also leak where it goes in the engine. Once again, plus you have all these controls. Any of these, there's all kinds of lines here that can leak. And that starter fluid trick is a great way to track those down. But you even, like here, you have one that goes back into, this I believe is the vacuum for the brake. Yeah, this is the brake booster vacuum. This is the four-wheel drive vacuum. So this line goes back into the engine back in there to feed vacuum to this to activate to work the four-wheel drive system. This one gives vacuum to the brake booster there to work the brake system, the brake booster. And as I said, you had all the ones for the fuel. You have a control valve here and here. These can go bad and give you weird fuel readings, but that's going to be more vacuum problems with it'll give you the check engine light, and it'll say evaporation problem or fuel problem, fuel system problem. One of those issues, which I've been fighting on this vehicle since I got it, which the problem actually is, I believe the fuel pump I put in here had a bad evacuator valve. And so I need to figure out how to make it work, which is going to be interesting. And I've got, like I said, I've got a vacuum leak. I'm thinking it may be this right here, because this line it's cracked bad. If you can see there, it's cracked bad along the edges, and it's swollen here. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's my leak. I've got to fight with that at some point. But I've replaced a couple of these lines already because they had vacuum leaks.
Yep.
Now, going to the transmission, I haven't tracked down yet, because there's a possibility that there's vacuum feeds going back to the automatic transmission, but they are going to be back behind this engine. So getting to those, I don't know if I can get to those without dropping the engine and transmission. And I'm not entirely sure it's going to have them, because this vehicle is new enough that most modern automatic transmissions are electronically controlled, so you don't have the vacuum control systems like you did in that old Cherokee over there. It has a lot of vacuum control to control shifting and help it figure out when to shift up, when to shift down, all that stuff, besides just having a mechanical linkage to help with that. This one should have electronic, but I've run into stuff on this vehicle that's kind of a throwback to 80s. 80s still used a lot of vacuum. Early 90s used a good bit of vacuum. So, and as you can see, I need to replace the valve cover gasket at some point. It leaks.
Yep. Reatta needs that too, by the way. Valve cover gaskets, and the valve train is very chatty. We might want to tighten that down to quiet that out.
Yeah, this thing's been sitting because I've got to replace the brake line still. I finally got everything to do it. I just haven't had time. I've gotten everything but time. So, and other spots where you can have vacuum leak, air intake is normally not too big of a deal, but right here where you have, this is, well, I bought complete units, but if you change one of these out and you take the mass flow sensor out and put it back in, if you don't get a good seal there, it can affect air to fuel ratios because it's not reading what's coming in properly because it's able to suck more in. That's the same reason why any leaks on this side of this sensor, anything on that side of this sensor, if there's a leak, that can cause it to have more air or less air going to the fuel air mix system than it needs, and that can cause it to run rough. It can run lean, run rich, just idle badly.
And it's all due to like having a crack, say in this, or like this gasket here.
In this part, it's less. The further up you get, the worse it gets. Anything, your fuel gets introduced here, so anything this side can really affect it.
Yep.
But that takes care, that covers about all the main vacuum lines for the engine and four-wheel drive system.
And we've had a few questions here that we've been putting off answering. This is the reason we wanted to do it all in one video.
And there's been a few that I've answered verbally, and it's a lot better to show you. Because especially when you're tracking down the four-wheel drive ones, because you have this small metal line, and I showed you on this side where it goes into the engine block. So if you're not getting vacuum to this canister, it's probably disconnected in there, or this is clogged or has a hole in it. Same thing for the brake booster. You have a soft line there, and hard line connects in between. So
yeah,
so that's all for that. And I'll show you on this side too. I showed you the driver's side, passenger side, same way. You'll see you have a metal line there that's for the brake line, the soft line. Right next to it, I have it capped. That is the vacuum line, still vacuum line.
Yep. And that's because we need seals on those hubs.
Yeah, which I ordered seals. I don't know if they're the right seals, but I ordered seals to try to get the vacuum hubs working again. I think that covers all those vacuum systems anyway.
Yes. And of course, if those seals do work, we will link them in the video that we do that in.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know there's more than one person out there that wants the automatic lockers done. Yeah. They don't want to do what we did here with the manuals.
Yeah, I'd like to get the automatic lockers too. These manual hubs have not held up. They had brass bearings inside of them, and those brass bearings are already powder. They're shot. So I'm going to have to replace those hubs fairly soon if I'm going to keep manual hubs.
Yep. So that gives you the updates on what's going on with the Tort, the Racing Turtle. That also gives you a good idea on some vacuum lines and things that we've been asked before in previous videos and things. And what's next for Tort when you get these items working in? What are you going to do with this?
I don't know. First thing is to get brakes on it so it can be driven again.
And when's the drag race with Reatta?
That will be after I fix the cooling system. I've also got to change the fan clutch, which I've got that. And because I'm not dependent on it for a work vehicle anymore, I may take everything off in front and start taking apart the AC system and get it set up so see if I can put AC in it again.
Okay. That's cool.
But we have to wait for a day when to film when someone is cutting their yard.
Yes, apparently.
Well, no, as soon as they see the camera, they'll start cutting their yard.
It's automatic.
Hey, lawnmower guy.
Be snow outside on the ground. This has happened before. You remember, it was snowing. There was a layer of snow on the ground. I turned it on, and the neighbors across the street started mowing their lawn.
Yeah, I don't know. They wanted to make sure it was cut before the snow got too thick.
I guess. I don't know. Sorry. YouTube problems. Y'all don't care.
Also, kind of a neat device. This was just a free giveaway thing I got, but this is an actual auto one.
Hold it up because we want to see your face.
It has a seatbelt cutter. It's got a little thing here where it pops out. That's a window breaker. So if you get trapped in the car, you can break the window out.
Show me the logo of the company here.
I don't even know if this has it on there. The logos on this is for Indiana Veteran Patrol Association, not a sponsor.
Okay.
So I have no idea who made this. This was a free giveaway. It's got your little, Swiss Army knife knockoff thing.
So it slices, it dices.
And it's a nice flashlight. It's got blinkies.
It juliennes.
It zooms. I grabbed it because it was a good pointer. Oh.
But does it make thousands and thousands of curly fries?
This is another vacuum point. I do not know what line is supposed to go there. This was missing and off when I got it. I covered it so it would get rid of the vacuum leak. But it should feed to something.
Hey, Crazy Carl.
Who knows what?
How's the weather right now?
Better. It's not
perfect for working on a Subaru, right?
It's getting there. I'm hoping to work on it this weekend. So Subaru hopefully will be worked on this weekend.
It attacked me.
And it does that.
Attack you back, tree.
But
okay.
Hopefully the Subaru will be done soon. I got the head rebuilt. It's finally no longer 100 degrees in the garage, so I'm going to try to get that head back on sometime this weekend. And then I will get into changing the water pump, which right now I've got a Chinese water pump. That whole kit it's what I could get when I ordered it. Well, now you can get better parts again, so I may upgrade the pump to an original equipment one, if I can find one for a decent price. And same thing for the tensioner. But the rest of the stuff, what I ordered was a reputable company, but they outsourced it to China, so it still suffers the same problem. Even though it's a reputable company, those things don't tend to last as long as the original equipment.
That's true. You got to be careful of that. It's like, I know GM is bad about that on theirs. They're not. It may say that name. I forget the name off the top of my head, but it may say it on the box. But it's really
AC Delco.
AC Delco.
It says
yes.
AC Delco, but it's not. It's made on AC Delco patents. They're not actually AC Delco parts.
Yep.
So you get a lot of that. That's kind of what those Subaru parts I ordered are. They're actually American engineered, manufactured in China. But they're supposed to be American performance parts and for Subarus, and they're made in China. And the reviews are good for them, but like I said, as opposed to the original Subaru part, tends to have about half of the lifespan, which if you, not necessarily for mileage, but for for time. So it's one of those, it's like, okay, if you're putting a lot of miles on it, it's not going to make a difference. If you're not putting many miles on it, it's going to corrode quicker. That seems to be the biggest complaint.
Okay. Well, does that wrap this one up?
I think that wraps this one up. Like I said, I don't go into any vacuum system with the transmission because I don't know that one yet, because I haven't been able to see anything for that one yet. I think these lines right here, there's a fuel feed. That's the fuel line going up. And that's the fuel return right there. So those are fuel lines. And there's a fuel filter down there. So I have yet to find anything that's for sure a vacuum line going back to the transmission. So it very well may be all electric. It's just trying to figure out where the disconnect, because my transmission shifts weird.
Yep. Okay. Well, if this video helped you out, please give us the thumbs up and like and
share and
yes,
all those good things.
All those good things.
And hopefully soon we'll have more big projects. My busy season is still in full swing, so it's going to be probably October before I have much free time to work on stuff.
So we're saying by the end of November, then that drag race with Reatta and this is going to happen.
It might happen by then.
Yes.
Because I may have time to work on this by then. But I've got to fix Reatta first.
True.
Right. And I'm still working on, you haven't named it yet, the other Buick.
Right now it's the Brown Bomber. I don't have a real name for it at the moment. That the one we plan on using for our Lemons car, a Lemons racer.
But I've still got to either rebuild the transmission or swap out the transmission. I have found 2 transmissions cheap with low miles on wrecked cars, but both of them were for the next generation of transmission for that engine. And I do not know, I can't find anywhere if the computer in that car will have a fit with the more modern transmission. So I've passed them both up. I'm trying to get one that's low miles from that time period. Otherwise, I'm going to try to rebuild it. I don't know how well that's going to go.
rather have the newer one first and then swap that in and then try to rebuild.
Yeah, it's easier to have the swap and then do the rebuild.
Yes.
So,
because that way if we screw it up, hey, it already works.
And it'll give me good practice because I have probably 2 Buick transmissions I need to do. Well, my Regals I want to update. I had it rebuilt years ago and it was not a very good rebuild. So it hasn't shifted. It shifts fine, but it doesn't shift as well as it used to. And it needs a torque converter replaced because the torque converter is starting to get weak. So that one I would like to do a good rebuild, maybe an upgrade rebuild on. Both the Reatta and the Century, if we're going to use them as track cars, I have to put a transmission cooling system on them. So that's going to be a project to figure out.
Not a sponsor, but ReattaOwner.com has a step-by-step guide we may want to check out.
And I know a couple tricks beyond that with adding electric fans to help, which you can just poke a wire through into the cab and have a switch so you can kick it on if your transmission temperature is going up.
Yeah.
So there's some stuff, especially on the Century, I'm probably going to wire in a lot of toggle switch fans to help circulate air in that engine compartment and get it over the transmission. Because the transmission's behind the engine, so it takes all the engine heat and it heats up the transmission more. So even though it's got transmission cooler, it can't overcome the heat sometimes. That was the problem I had with when the clutches were all slipping and doing that high grade, why it overheated so bad. Well, that and it was slipping bad. But,
okay. All right, well, let's wrap this up.
Okay.
I'm getting eaten up out here.
Well, you're feeding the mosquitoes.
I don't want to feed the mosquitoes.
Well, until next time, like, share, subscribe.
Y'all have a good one.